Discover the touching truth, how a punished widow became an incredible cowboy's hidden treasure. Lily Johnson stood at the edge of her ranch, gazing out over the sprawling expanse of land that had been her family's legacy for generations. The familiar silhouettes of cattle rumbled in the distance, but for Lily, each sound was a painful reminder of the void left by her husband's death. The harsh winds of Pecos whipped at her face, mirroring the internal tempest stirring within her. As the widow of a respected cattle rancher, she felt the weight of judgment bear down every time a fellow rancher glanced her way, questioning her ability to uphold the farming heritage. Bills piled high in the crooked kitchen drawer, each letter a suffocating noose tightening around her neck. With her husband gone, the ranch was drowning in debts he had left behind, and the looming threat of losing their land gnawed at her insides. Panic rose in her throat like bile as she recalled the whispers of men at the diner, how they tossed sarcastic comments about the widow who couldn't hold the reins. Lily's hands trembled at the thought of their sneers, and she often caught herself gripping the table edge until her knuckles whitened. Had she not been their target, she could think of nothing worse. An unexpected lifeline came in the form of Tom, her late husband's old friend. He appeared one day unannounced, his weathered face hinting at a rugged tenacity that reminded Lily of what strength and resilience once looked like. But even in his presence she grappled with doubts. Was she capable, or was she just another woman meant to fail when the stakes were high? "Lily, you have more in you than you know," he encouraged, but his voice felt like a whisper against her thunderstorm of despair, each assurance faltering as fear clutched at her heart. Just when she felt a flicker of hope, visits from Ernest, the neighboring rancher, added to the burden. His threats, wrapped in smooth, deceptive words, chilled her bones. He saw vulnerability and believed it could counter out, counting on her breaking under pressure. "Don't let this slip away," Tom urged, but how could she believe in herself when every failure echoed in her thoughts? As tension mounted and pasture that had once been lush dry up, her resolve began to flicker. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every day that passed, the impending town hall meeting hung over her like a storm cloud. What if she failed to defend her land? Anxiety wrestled with defiance, creating a chaotic symphony in her mind. As she prepared to enter the hall, her palms slick with sweat, earnest dread shot through her veins. Then, standing before an audience ready to judge her every word, all eyes turned. She felt the air thick with expectation. Would she summon the courage to voice her truth, to fight for what was hers? Moments before she began speaking, Ernest stood, his expression slick as oil, revealing a damning piece of evidence he hoped would unravel her fragile claim. The silence swallowed her whole, the weight of everyone's scrutiny a crushing force. Lily's heart raced. Every ounce of fear clawed at her insides, merging anger with uncertainty. Would she rise to confront him, or let doubt shatter the foundation she fought so hard to build? All around her, whispers turned into snarls, but in that moment she felt flickers of determination. Could she finally embrace her fate, or would fortune turn its back when she needed it the most? Lily blinked against the harsh light of the town hall, grounding herself as she heard Ernest's insidious words flow across the space. His accusations about her financial management lingered in the air, heavy and suffocating like smoke. This was her moment. She could either crumble under the weight of his challenge or rise to defend not just her ranch, but the legacy of those who had come before her. A wave of adrenaline fueled her spine. No, she wouldn't be the widow they all expected to fail. She had fought through the darkest hours in her life, and this was just another battle in the war against despair. With each heartbeat, the pulse of her husband's spirit resonated within her, urging her to take a stand. "Your evidence is flawed, Ernest," she said, her voice steady, even if her insides gyrated with uncertainty. The crowd shifted, surprised by the assertiveness in her tone. "I have every piece of documentation proving my rightful ownership of this ranch. My husband trusted me, and I will honor that trust." The murmurs of the crowd faded as she spoke, replaced by the sound of her own heartbeat, each thud echoing her evolving belief in herself. The anxious thoughts that once shackled her seemed to dissolve against the clarity of her resolve. Tom's mantra played in her mind. She had something valuable to protect. "I will not let my husband's name be sullied like that," she declared, her voice gaining strength. "This ranch is not just land, it is a home, a legacy. It belongs to me just as much as it did to him." Lily watched as the townsfolk began to nod, the weight of her truth settling in. There was power in vulnerability, and with each word she uttered, she reclaimed a piece of herself that had been hidden beneath layers of sorrow and fear. Once Ernest had laid his bait, it was now unraveling in his grasp. "You think your little speeches are going to change anything? A widow, untrained in this line of work, thinks she can overpower me?" His smirk was an insufferable scowl, but Lily saw it for what it was, fear cloaked in arrogance. "I might be a widow, but I am also a rancher. I have worked this land since I was a child," she countered boldly, stepping forward to occupy space. "You underestimate me at your own peril, and I will do whatever it takes to keep what's mine." The audience held its breath, and she could see Tom's approving nod from the back of the room. A spark ignited in her chest, fueling an urge to press on. Lily felt raw and alive, the essence of the ranch enveloping her, driving each word into the depths of her heart. Then, out of nowhere, a gentle voice cut through the tension. "You know we all respected Thomas. Are you so quick to discard that legacy, Ernest?" A soft murmur followed. Lily sensed the tide shifting. This was the reckoning she had desperately needed, a chance to claim her voice even more. The scales of public opinion were beginning to tip toward her favor, but she understood that this moment was merely a step, not the end. As she steeled herself for the next wave of questions, a sudden realization pierced through the fog of doubt. This fight was not just for her land, but for her own identity. Who was Lily Johnson beyond being a widow? And so the question lurked. What new revelations awaited her in the days to come? The journey to find out would challenge her strength and resolve as much as the ranch did. Would she continue to embrace the full scope of her ownership, or would she let fear reclaim her once again? Finding that answer would be like navigating her uncharted territories, both thrilling and terrifying. The days following the town hall meeting felt like a fever dream to Lily. The energy she had felt while addressing Ernest and the townspeople was still buzzed with excitement, but it was also tinged with a rustle of uncertainty. Every moment of clarity she had experienced in that room now seemed to waver in the harsh light of reality. As the dust settled on the confrontation, she found herself immersed in follow-up meetings with her financial advisor, who had been monitoring her assets since her husband's passing. Sitting across from Jim, a steadfast man with a history of dealing with tough situations, Lily felt a blend of ineptitude and determination. "That's the fourth consecutive month where your expenses have outpaced your revenue," Jim remarked, tapping his pen against the spreadsheet spread out between them. "I'm not just a number on a spreadsheet, Jim," she replied, her impatience surfacing. "This place means everything to me, and I refuse to let it go." Jim observed her intensity. He had seen it before in clients who were battling their worst fears. "I believe in what you're trying to do, but you need to take a pragmatic approach. There are ways to cut costs without sacrificing the essence of the ranch. We need a plan." That word loomed large in her mind. Plan. A plan was structure, a safety net. Her impulsive decision to confront the town about her ownership was a step towards defining her own identity, but without strategy, it could crumble just as quickly. Lily returned to the ranch that evening, the horizon painted with shades of orange and violet. She allowed herself to sink into the familiar scent of earth and grass, and her muscles remembered the work ahead of her. Each hoofbeat, every rustle among the cattle, echoed lessons learned from Tom: patience, resilience, and determination. "Maybe I could host a local event to showcase what we do here," she pondered aloud to herself, a seed taking root in her mind. "People need to see the ranch as vital, alive." But the familiar twitch of fear rumbled through her, inadequacy lurking in the margins of her thoughts, whispering doubts about whether anyone would attend. The stables were dimly lit, and as she began to prepare the evening feed, she noticed the worn tools hanging on the wall, a mix of memories and moments spent with Tom. She lifted an old lasso, running her fingers along the rough leather. "What do you think?" she asked the air, an instinctual conversation with the memory of her husband. "Should I step further into unfamiliar territory and try something new? Can I really lead this ranch on my own?" With each motion, she began to see herself, not as a widow weighed down by loss, but as a rancher fueled by love. She had the skills: wrangling, herding, managing livestock. These were pieces of her that she had buried under grief, and it was time to reclaim them. Lily paused, a growing realization igniting within her. Hosting cherished figures from the community might not only save her ranch, but also reforge their bond with the land. In that moment, she grasped the lasso tightly, envisioning her plan taking shape, and heard it as a challenge echoing from deep within. If she could find the courage to host a community gathering, she just might galvanize support against Ernest's impending threats. But an unsettling thought threaded through her excitement. Would they trust her? Uncertainty gripped her heart, and as darkness enveloped the ranch that night, she knew her next step required more than practicality. It demanded vulnerability, and admission that she would need help. The decision loomed before her like a mountain peak. It could either lead to an exhilarating ascent or a harrowing downfall. How would she rally her community around her so that they could see the ranch's heartbeat pulsing not just under her care, but through generations of memories? Would she rise to that precarious occasion and face her neighbors? Or would the shadows of self-doubt snuff out her burgeoning flame? With the dawn of a new day, the answer awaited her, just within reach. The morning sun crested the horizon, golden rays spilling across the ranch, illuminating the dust that swirled lazily as Lily stepped out of her home. The air felt charged, electric with potential, invigorating her spirit. Today marked the beginning of her bold plan to reach out to the community and invite them back to the ranch. Each hoofprint she left felt resolute, blending her path of resilience with the rich earth beneath her feet. She settled at the kitchen table, pen poised above a blank sheet of paper. The burgeoning ideas raced through her mind, but as she began to write, uncertainty seeped back in. How could she communicate her vision effectively? What if her neighbors viewed her as nothing but Tom's widow, trapped in the past? Lily took a deep breath, remembering the strength she'd found in the quiet moments with the cattle. She transformed her hesitations into words on the page, writing not just about the ranch, but about the legacy Tom had built and the future she envisioned, a thriving, living testament to their love for this land. As she wrote, nostalgia melded with a fierce determination. The ranch wasn't merely soil and livestock, it was a history, a story waiting to unfold. When she finished drafting her first invitation, a flicker of excitement ignited in her chest. It was direct yet heartfelt. "Join me for a day of shared memories, laughter, and rejuvenation at the ranch," it began. She invited them to connect, not just with her, but with one another, reminding them of the unity they once shared in this land. After she printed a handful of copies, Lily wrapped her arms tight around her stomach, realizing that the first hurdle was mere distribution. Carrying those invitations around town would feel like exposing a vulnerable part of herself, each step weighed down by potential rejection. Her heart raced as she began making her rounds. First stop, the local grocery store, a hub of social interactions and shared lives. Tightening her grasp on the invitations, she prepared for the inevitable curiosity that would follow, trying to preempt any criticisms or judgments that might hurl at her. Lily, Mary, the cashier, greeted her with a warm smile, but it quickly shifted to a mix of uncertainty and change. "What brings you in today?" "Hi, Mary," Lily replied, attempting to keep her tone even. "I'm inviting everyone to the ranch for a gathering. I thought it might be nice to reconnect." It felt like a leap into the abyss. Mary's eyes lit up momentarily, but flickering with empathy. "That sounds different," she said slowly, fingers tapping the counter nervously. "You know how folks are, right? With everything that's happened." Lily felt the sting of doubt at the back of her thoughts. Yes, she knew exactly how they were, but she had to try. Push through the fear. "I'm aware, but I truly believe it could breathe new life into the ranch. I want people to see that it's still a place of joy, of community." "Sure, I'll take one," Mary said at last, reaching for the invitation carefully, but Lily still thought she saw hesitation lingering there. As she continued her rounds, from the cafe to the dusty corners of the town, she observed reactions varying from supportive nods to pained expressions. Each interaction reinforced her resolve, but shadows of doubt lingered in the corners of her mind. An internal voice, once dialectic of despair, began to shift as she recognized the power of her intent. With each invitation she delivered, she wasn't merely asking for a favor. She was re-establishing connections tied to a place that once thrived with vivacity. By the time she returned home, the evening sun draped its warmth over her weary shoulders. The first round of invitations went better than she had anticipated, yet she understood this was merely the beginning. The battle was far from over. Reactions would only escalate as the date approached. As she prepared to feed the cattle, her phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with an incoming message from someone unexpected, Ernest. Just months before, he had been a mere shadow on the outskirts of her life, but now he loomed large. "I hear you're throwing a little gathering," he wrote. "Mind if I join?" The breath in her chest caught suddenly, igniting a fierce need for caution as her mind raced ahead. What did this mean? Would his presence assist in winning the community's trust, or would it decimate everything she was trying to build? The moment of truth was approaching closer than she anticipated, the anticipation crystallizing within her. Would she battle for what was hers, or risk the potential implosion of her dreams right at the very outset? As she looked out into the setting sun, determination flickered in her heart, yet tension wrapped tightly around her thoughts. She was ready to confront the shadows. The real challenge loomed ahead. Lily sat quietly in her kitchen, the fading light of the day casting long shadows across the room. She stared at her phone, Ernest's message replaying in her mind like a haunting melody she couldn't ignore. The uncertainty of his involvement gnawed at her composure, propelling her to question her own motives and courage. Could she embrace someone who had once hovered on the periphery of her life, a symbol of both potential and risk? Putting her phone down, she returned to the cattle, the rhythmic sound of hooves on the earth soothing her restless thoughts. Each step she took among the animals felt not just like a ritual of feeding, but a reaffirmation of her connection to the land Tom had cherished. She ran her fingers through the soft, warm fur of the animals, grounding herself in their presence. They were living embodiments of her resilience, just as she sought to be. But as much as she tried to bury her confusion, it bubbled to the surface. What was it about Ernest's presence that frightened her? Perhaps it was the fear of being judged by a person who still had not crossed the threshold of familiarity. Or maybe it was the concern that even with the best intentions, he could inadvertently unravel the fragile threads of the community she fought so hard to mend. The following day, she crafted a response to Ernest, heart racing as she typed, "I'm glad you want to come, but let's talk about this first. I want to ensure that your presence doesn't overshadow what I hope to achieve." Hitting send, she felt a mix of relief and dread. Encouraged by the small but significant move forward, she decided to manage another round of invitations. This time, she ventured to visit her old friend Martha, who owned the flower shop and had once dominated the social scene in town. Their friendship had dimmed after Tom's passing, but she sensed that rekindling that connection could lend support to her cause. Arriving at the flower shop, the familiar scent of lilacs filled the air. Despite the warmth of the shop, an unexpected knot tightened in her stomach. With each step toward the summery display, memories of laughter and light banter flitted back, moments tarnished by grief. Martha looked up, surprise lighting her features. "Lily, what a surprise!" Lily smiled, but it felt more like a mask. "I'm inviting everyone to gather at the ranch, like old times." Martha's smile faltered. "Lily, it's been tough since, you know." "I do," Lily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I believe that lifting the veil of sadness could be a start." Martha watched her, a look of contemplation crossing her face. "You know, it might not be well received by all." The weight of her words sank like a stone in Lily's gut. "I know, but staying stagnant isn't living, and I refuse to let fear dictate my life anymore." "But what happens if they don't come?" Martha pressed gently, concern weaving through her tone. A moment of silence fell between them. The question expressed precisely what Lily feared the most, rejection from those to whom she offered an olive branch. But beneath the fear there lay a simmering resolve. "Then I will know who is meant to be part of this new path I'm carving." Martha's eyes softened, and a gentle smile crept back into her expression. "You've always had a way of persuading others, even in darkness. I'll help you spread the word." Encouraged by her friend's support, Lily left the shop with renewed purpose. Yet as she stepped out, the reality of the loaning gathering weighed heavily upon her again. Each invitation felt like a thread, pulling her deeper into a web of community dynamics she had struggled to traverse alone. As the day slipped into evening, Lily's phone buzzed with a reply from Ernest. The anticipation was suffocating. His words were a cryptic mix of encouragement wrapped in careful consideration. "I won't take center stage. Let's make it what you envision." Could she trust his intentions, or was he merely another unpredictable element to navigate? Entrapped between possibilities, Lily's journey to self-definition loomed ever more vital. Tomorrow, she would have to forge even deeper into these complexities. It was time to confront not only the expectations others held of her, but also the expectations she held for herself. In the pursuit of growth, she felt the enormous pressure of true vulnerability, as she questioned whether she was ready to take the next leap, one that had the power to elevate her or destroy her aspirations entirely. The opportunity for transformation was pulsating at her fingertips, yet she knew that her journey would demand a reckoning. Would she dare accept that calling, or would she retreat into the shadows again? As she settled into bed that night, anticipation electrifying the air around her, she realized that the true confrontation was just beginning. The morning dawned bright and crisp, shattering the shadows of anxiety that had clung to Lily through the night. As she prepared breakfast, her mind churned with the weight of her upcoming interactions. Each moment felt like a step toward change, yet doubt threatened to tether her firmly to the familiar ground she sometimes found too comfortable. Lily scrubbed the dishes with fervor, her hands working tirelessly but her thoughts wandering to Ernest's message. The dichotomy of his text left her feeling fragile. She needed him to be what he promised, yet she feared the stirrings of hope he ignited. Perhaps it was time to confront her own perception of control, something she often relied on to navigate her world. After breakfast, she pulled on her boots and stepped into the sunlight, the expansive land around her a testament to both freedom and burden. Today, she would visit the feed store, an important stop not merely for supplies, but also a chance to engage with the town. With every step, her resolve hardened. The town was not just a backdrop to her life, it was the stage where her fears and aspirations would collide. As she entered the feed store, the familiar creak of the door welcomed her back into a space she had once frequented regularly. The scent of hay and livestock feed enveloped her, a reminder of the simpler joys of ranch life she cherished. Conversations buzzed around her, intertwining laughter and gossip. Yet there lingered a current of unease, an unspoken acknowledgment of the sorrow that had wrapped around the community since Tom's passing. "Lily, look who's back in the game!" Bill, the store manager, grinned, leaning against the counter. "You planning something big with all these supplies?" The lightheartedness in his voice swept over her momentarily, but the unasked questions hung heavy in the air. "I'm trying to reconnect, Bill. I want to invite everyone over. I think it's time we started."
Moving forward. His expression shifted subtly. "That's brave of you. Just now, not everyone's ready for that." She felt herself bristle at the insinuation of potential failure. "I understand the hesitation, but I can't let fear dictate how I live anymore. It's time we all confront our own." The words emerged with more intensity than she anticipated, challenging not just Bill but her own apprehensions. Bill nodded slowly, appreciating her resolve, even if it unsettled him. "Well, you know where to find me. I'll spread the word." Leaving the store, Lily felt lighter, like she'd shed a weight she didn't know she carried. Engaging in that manner, with raw honesty, had drawn out a part of her that yearned to be acknowledged. But as she stepped back out into the open, an unsettling thought hit her. Had she truly prepared for any backlash resulting from her boldness? The sun was high when she returned to the ranch, and she took a moment to survey the land that felt both expansive and isolating. She had taken steps, yes, but the future felt nebulous, rife with uncharted waters. Each invitation she sent out entangled her deeper into beliefs about her worth. Were these invitations a reflection of her growth, or merely an escape from her own grief? Her phone buzzed, a reply from Ernest, succinct, supportive, yet the ambiguity gnawed at her trust. What did he really want? For a fleeting moment, she debated what would happen if she set aside her apprehensions. Perhaps loving, trusting, and engaging deeply with the community meant wrestling with uncertainty. That evening, Lily approached the barn, a sanctuary that had seen her at her most vulnerable and empowered. She looked into the quiet eyes of her cattle, feeling a surge of courage swell within her. If she could nurture these animals, could she not also nurture her own evolution? It was time to bring forth her truth in every invitation, discussion, and meeting. She wanted to build something lasting that transcended her fear. Tomorrow she would begin to lay the groundwork for her gathering. Every conversation, every bond would be a cornerstone. The fear of rejection would always be there, but the desire for growth outshone it. Yet in her heart, she knew that with each step toward opening up her life, she would also confront those who remained tied to their own fears. As she made her way back into the house, the question loomed larger in her mind. What if her desire for connection provoked resistance rather than understanding? The fear of being misunderstood loomed ahead like a storm cloud brewing on the horizon, signaling that her greatest battle had yet to unfold. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window as Lily stared at the stack of invitations on the table, each one a silent declaration of her intent. The familiar rhythm of her days had begun to feel like a symphony playing in a new key, each note striking a different chord of anticipation and fear. She felt a mixture of excitement and dread. This gathering was not merely a social call. It was a risk, a potential upheaval of her carefully constructed world. What would happen when people arrived? Would they embrace her initiative or recoil, reflecting their own discomfort? Her mind raced as she calculated the possible reactions, every scenario unfurling like threads of a loom. Each invitation felt dangerously revealing, exposing not only her intentions, but also the vulnerability hidden beneath her resolute facade. With the morning slipping away, Lily decided to begin her preparations. She moved through the ranch with purpose, sorting through dishes, tidying the living space. Her actions were almost mechanical, her mind clouded with tangled thoughts. But when she reached the barn, the energy shifted distinctly. The gentle lowing of the cattle grounded her, their steady presence reminding her of her role as their caretaker. She took a deep breath, absorbing the serenity of the barn, letting it soothe her racing heart. If she could nurture these animals through storms and droughts, perhaps she could find the strength to navigate her own emotional tempest. An idea began to form, a step she could take to emphasize her intentions. She would create a simple centerpiece featuring flowers from her garden. It would be a symbol of growth and beauty amidst the upheaval. As she gathered the blooms, Lily found herself lost in thought once more. What if this was not just about healing the community, but also about her own grieving process? Had she been subconsciously avoiding the pain that came with nourishment? Each flower represented a shade of loss, yet together they painted a picture of renewal. She realized that this gathering was as much for her as it was for the town, a chance to confront the ghosts of the past. That evening, as she arranged the flowers in a makeshift vase on the dining table, the doorbell chimed unexpectedly. Her heart raced, an involuntary response to the sudden intrusion into her otherwise planned routine. Standing at the threshold was Mabel, an elderly neighbor, a woman known for her warm smile and sage advice, who had distanced herself since Tom's passing. "Lily," she said, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty, "I hope I'm not intruding." Lily gestured for her to enter, the unexpected visit stirring yet another wave of vulnerability. What prompted Mabel's appearance? Was it concern for Lily, or was it a tremor of hope that the gathering might bridge the unspoken rift between them? "I came to talk, dear," Mabel continued, her eyes softening as she surveyed the flowers. "They're lovely, just like you." Those words hung in the air, unraveling the tightly wound tension in Lily's chest. She had long feared showing any of her complexities to the world. Yet here was Mabel, a living testament to resilience, encouraging her to share her light. "I've been thinking of the gathering," Mabel said, her tone shifting to seriousness. "Sometimes we don't realize how much we need community until we risk losing it." Lily felt the warmth of Mabel's understanding wash over her. This was the moment she had been preparing for, mutual acknowledgement of their collective grief and the paths they might forge moving forward. "Would you like to help?" Lily asked, a spark of hope igniting within her. There was a pause, heavy with implications. Mabel's expression shifted, an inner battle playing across her face. "I'm not sure." "No," Lily interjected gently. "I don't want you to feel pressured. I just thought it might be good to collaborate." Mabel's brow furrowed, visibly torn between desire and doubt. Would Mabel choose to embrace change, or would she remain imprisoned by her fears? As they stood amidst the vibrant flowers, each woman confronted an unspoken truth. The stakes of vulnerability were growing higher. Their discussion, while tentative, could define the fabric of the gathering and reshape the tapestry of their intertwined lives. Lily felt a tug within her, a beckoning toward deeper authenticity. Could the bond between them be the catalyst to heal not just their sorrows, but also the festering wounds of the broader community? With every unanswered question that hung in the air, an understanding settled within her. It was time to push through the barriers of fear. But would they both find the courage to step into the light together? The answer loomed closely, fraught with the promise of discovery. Lily's heart thumped lightly as another crucial choice awaited on the horizon. How far would she go to open herself up to the bonds she craved? And would Mabel be ready to join her on that journey? The atmosphere hung thick with unspoken sentiments as Lily and Mabel stood surrounded by blooms, each flower reflecting the complicated emotions that pirouetted within them. Mabel's hesitation ignited a surge of urgency within Lily. If she could not make a stride toward connection now, would she ever? "Why don't we showcase these at the gathering?" Lily proposed suddenly, her voice stronger than she felt. "Maybe it will inspire others to share their own stories, just like we are trying to." Mabel's brow furrowed, contemplation etching deeper lines across her face. "It's not that simple, dear. Opening up means facing everything, the grief, the loss. It's messy." Lily sensed the truth in Mabel's words. It was messy indeed. Each layer of grief they peeled back only seemed to expose something raw and jagged. But what choice did they have? To stay stagnant, encased in the shadows of their pasts? No, there had to be more for them both. "I know it's painful," Lily admitted, feeling the weight of vulnerability pressing down on her. "But isn't it time we acknowledge that it's okay to feel lost and confused? Maybe together we can make sense of the chaos." A stillness settled between them, and Mabel's gaze softened. "You're right, Perhaps this gathering is less about the flowers and more about the conversation they encourage." Lily offered a tentative smile, sensing the shift. It was small but significant. They were not just women caught in a cycle of grief. They were women ready to embrace a new chapter. "That's the spirit," Lily encouraged, feeling emboldened by her neighbor's acknowledgement. "Perhaps we can even share stories of Tom and my late husband as a means of honoring them. I think that maybe, just maybe, we'll find healing through the memories." Mabel nodded, her eyes misting over. Your husband had such a way of bringing joy to those around him. As the conversation flowed, barriers continued to crumble, revealing a shared history steeped in sorrow, yet brightened by fleeting moments of joy. Together they worked through the poignant details, weaving a tapestry of remembrance that made the air shimmer with hope. Hours slipped by unnoticed until Mabel finally touched Lily's forearm, grounding her. "I might not have the courage yet, but if you're moving forward, I want to be there. Just give me time." Lily squeezed Mabel's hand, a pact forming through their intertwining fingers. This bond was the first of many that would allow her to expand beyond the tightly held confines she had constructed so carefully. Mabel's walls were precarious structures, much like her own. Lily realized now that she was willing to stand among tumbling bricks if it meant inviting others to do the same. Gazing out the window, Lily's thoughts danced through possibilities. She had taken a monumental step today, one that promised not just transformation for herself, but a burgeoning seed of change for Mabel, too. Could this moment ignite a fire that swept through their lives and encouraged others to emerge from their own towers of isolation? Suddenly, Lily's heart raced anew as clarity shot through her. This was not simply about her or Mabel. It was about igniting the courage within each heart in their small town, striking a match that could light a path back into the open. Yet beneath the flicker of hope, uncertainty churned. Would others join them in this endeavor to confront their pasts head-on, or would fear immobilize them? That evening she stood at the edge of her garden, the moonlight casting gentle shadows across the yard. As she surveyed her surroundings, an unsettling feeling crept in. If the community's reaction was heavily weighted by skepticism, could she really withstand the gravity of rejection she risked encountering? The hour was late, and anticipation brimmed within her. She could feel the pull of impending change, yet the weight of potential failure lingered. Was she truly ready to stir the hearts of others, to unveil the vulnerabilities that lay hidden beneath the surface? The answer was shrouded in ambiguity, but there was one thing Lily did know. The confrontation with hesitation loomed ahead, waiting for her to rise to the challenge. She would have to soon face questions that cut deep, not only regarding her intentions, but also her willingness to plunge into shared vulnerability. With determination sparking anew,
she headed inside, where tomorrow's dawn would bring opportunities she could not yet comprehend. Would she be prepared to challenge herself as profoundly as she had initiated in Mabel? A deep inhale filled her lungs, thick with the scent of fresh blooms and the promise of transformation. It all began here, but where would it lead? The morning sun broke free from its slumber, casting warm rays that filtered through the window and sparked a resolute fire within Lily's heart. She awoke with an eagerness unfamiliar to her, an anticipation that pulsed through her veins. Today was not just another day, it was a culmination of choices and fears, a potential turning point waiting to unfold. Yet as she prepared herself for the day, a single thought pierced through the optimism. What if the concept of community that she sought to inspire was built on fractured relationships and unresolved pains? Walking the thin line between hope and anxiety, she questioned her own readiness for the task ahead. Would she be strong enough to confront these inextricable ties of trauma? Stepping out into her garden, she felt the cool earth beneath her fingers as she knelt among the blooms, inhaling their aromatic richness. This was not just a garden, it was a reflection of her own growth, a burgeoning testament to resilience amidst adversity. Each flower, with its delicate petals unfurling in the morning light, served as a reminder that beauty could emerge even from brokenness. Determined to channel this energy, she set to work crafting a bouquet, a symbol of unity meant to transcend the sorrows that permeated their lives. Arranging each blossom, she marveled at how the varied hues complemented one another. How often had she overlooked this? The gifts of each flower, like the stories spoken and unspoken within her community, were intertwined, ultimately creating something vibrant and whole. As she finished, a knock at her door disrupted her musings. Surprised, she opened it to find a frail yet spirited Mabel standing on her doorstep, clutching a wicker basket filled with additional blooms. "Thought these might help bring some color," Mabel said, her voice a mix of strength and vulnerability. "Perfect timing," Lily replied, her throat tightening. They shared a look that spoke volumes, two souls understanding the struggle that lay just beneath their composed surfaces. Arranging the new flowers together felt like an extension of their pact, a tangible manifestation of the emotional landscape they were ready to navigate together. While they worked, Lily dared to delve deeper, asking Mabel about her own hesitations regarding the gathering. As the conversation flowed, barriers fell, revealing raw, authentic lives layered with complex histories. "I didn't think anyone else felt as lost as I do," Mabel confessed, her hands shaking as she fastened another bloom to the arrangement. Then let's start with our stories. Let's lay bare our losses, embrace the chaos together, Lily encouraged, hoping to kindle the resilience within Mabel, to reignite that flicker of courage she sensed in her friend.
It was this sentiment that planted a seed of determination within her. She realized her journey was as much about her growth as it was about the empowerment of others, a dual path of personal and communal healing. Knowing this only intensified the fear of failure, yet it was the kind of fear that could not hinder her. Emboldened by their interactions, Lily broached a lingering question. What if we encourage others to share at the gathering? Each story we hear could be another flower blooming in the garden of our town, tools to heal the scars we carry. Mabel hesitated, her eyes clouded with worry. But what if people don't want to talk? What if we fail to make them comfortable? It dawned on Lily that Mabel's fears mirrored her own. They were both standing at the precipice of a collective renewal. Deciding to press on, Lily made it clear they wouldn't retreat now. With the bouquet complete and invigorated by their discussions, a decision took root within Lily. She would face the discomfort that came with transparency. The gathering would not just be an assembly. It would be an invitation for truth and perhaps redemption. Tomorrow would mark a defining moment, when they would step into the unknown, unraveling the tapestry of their lives for shared understanding. But as she watched Mabel absorb the significance of their newfound purpose, a troubling thought flickered, a nagging doubt, that perhaps they were stepping too far into realms they weren't prepared for. Would they emerge renewed, or would they find themselves drowning in the grief they had tried to vocalize? This question gripped her tight as she closed the door later, ready to embrace the challenges ahead. The path soon would unveil its challenges, and with them a confrontation would arise. Would they harness the power of their vulnerability, or would fear anchor them back from transformation? The stakes felt impossibly high. Lily's heart raced at the looming challenge. The time had come to transform their grief into strength. As the sun rose over the horizon, Lily felt resolute yet vulnerable. The day she had meticulously prepared for had arrived. Today would not just be about flowers or stories. It would be about forging connections, stepping beyond undeniable grief, and reclaiming agency over her life. She arrived at the ranch early, the air crisp and charged with promise. The vibrant hues from the garden had transformed her table into a vivid tapestry of color, a visual embrace for the community she was bravely inviting into her home. But underneath her confident demeanor, trepidation swirled. What if the very stories she hoped would unite them only unearthed unhealed wounds? Moments later, the first guests began to arrive. It started with Mabel, a line of hope glimmering behind her guarded eyes. Together, they set the stage for deeper conversations, every flower becoming a symbol for the lives entwined in the ranch's rich history. "Lily, these arrangements are beautiful," Mabel said, her voice quivering with, "Thank you. It's more than just flowers. It's about connection, isn't it?" Just then, the door swung open, and familiar faces from the town trickled in. Initially, they exchanged cautious pleasantries, the weight of their shared histories palpable. As the last guest settled in, silence fell over the gathering. It was time for Lily to steer the ship into uncharted waters. "Everyone, thank you for coming," she began, her voice deliberately steady, but her heart raced. "I know how heavy the past can weigh on us. We've all lost something, someone. Today, I invite you to share with each other, not just stories of loss, but also of growth. Let's honor those we've lost by celebrating what we still have." She hesitated, struggling with the possibility of rejection. The palpable tension made her wish to retreat, but suddenly the truthful reminder of her own journey surged forward. I want to share about my husband and how I've tried to honor his legacy. He taught me to courageously face the storms of life. The room's energy shifted as she opened a door to vulnerability, inviting others to follow. People began to speak, one after another, weaving a tapestry of experiences rich in sorrow and resilience. The widow next to her spoke of navigating life without her partner's guiding hand. A farmer shared the loneliness that had shadowed him since he lost his mother, and Mabel revealed a hidden grief she had carried for years. With each story shared, tears spilled, laughter ebbed, and connection blossomed. Lily realized she no longer stood alone fighting despair. She had transformed fear into an opportunity for reclaiming joy. Every reflection of shared pain was a step toward healing, revealing just how beautifully intertwined their lives had become, despite differences. Then, as the conversations flourished, Lily felt the pulse of change reverberating not only within her, but throughout the gathering. A collective acceptance enveloped them, a resurgence of hope to rise from mourning. In the corner, Ernest listened, watching with his usual smugness flickering into contemplation. When the exchange turned toward him, he stood, his posture tight yet softer than before. "I've dismissed this place, this community," he began, his voice steady yet vulnerable. "But perhaps it's time I confronted my own fears, not just for myself, but for everyone who calls this land home." Lily's heart soared at the compassion rising in the room, a testament to the strength that came from shared experiences. With that single acknowledgement, the notion of freedom from their mutual burdens cemented itself. They could create something anew together, forging bonds stronger than any storm that might come their way. The gathering wrapped up with a newfound vibrancy that filled the air with anticipation and purpose. As people began to depart, they left behind promises to reconnect, to engage further with the land and each other. Each farewell felt less like an ending and more like a beginning, a commitment to fostering a sense of belonging in their community. That
night, as Lily cleaned up and reflected on the day, she understood the magnitude of her journey. She had transformed from a grieving widow bound by loss to an empowered rancher emboldened to claim her rightful place in the community. She had learned the art of letting go and inviting others into her space. With a sense of achievement coursing through her, she realized that the true essence of healing lie in authenticity, connection, and the courage to create change. Each flower on the table now represented not just beauty, but resilience. The journey of grief transforming into strength, binding them together in ways Lily had once thought impossible. Tomorrow would mark the dawn of a new chapter for the ranch, her vision finally taking flight. As she gazed at the empty chairs that had been filled with stories and laughter, she felt a profound sense of purpose and belonging solidify within her. Lily Johnson was no longer just a widow. She was a rancher, a leader, and an empowered woman ready to embrace her future. This was her achievement. The realization that growth comes not just from solitude, but from the strength found in shared vulnerability and the unyielding bonds of community. And as she exited the ranch, the fullness of dusk surrounding her, Lily took a deep breath, ready to tackle anything the world might throw her way. You need to subscribe now to see more incredible stories of personal transformation like Lily's. Leave a like now to fuel the journey and help us spread this powerful message of resilience. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about her journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the strength found in vulnerability. This is the moment to show your support.